Good morning, brethren, and welcome to our bi-weekly program entitled A Glance at the Word, which is broadcast live on Facebook every Monday and every Wednesday at 8:30 a.m. West Africa time, which is GMT +1. Today is Monday, the 10th of January 2022, and our topic this morning is entitled Breaking the Curse of the Land. Breaking the Curse of the Land. Let's first read in the book of Jeremiah, chapter 22, verses 29 and 30. Jeremiah chapter 22, verses 29 and 30. We read, O earth, 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 hear the word of the Lord. Thus says the Lord, write this man down as childless, a man who shall not prosper in his days, for none of his descendants shall prosper, sitting on the throne of David and ruling anymore in Judah. You know, everything that God has created has ears. And everything that God has created can hear. This we have already said it in this program, A Glance at the Word. This is why, for example, God could say, let it be light, and light came, because light heard. Thus the earth too has ears, and the earth can hear, and the earth actually hears. And since the earth can hear, you can speak to the earth and tell the earth exactly what you want the earth to do. When God, the creator of the earth, gives any command to the earth is bound to execute that command, to execute exactly what God requires of it. Because the earth hears, and the earth is bound to do what God commands it to do. And God generally uses the earth when He is willing either to bless us or to curse somebody. For example, if you remember what is written in the book of Hosea chapter 2, verses 21 and 22. In that passage, we read that heaven will answer the earth. Then the earth will answer the man Jezreel. In fact, what happens? The man Jezreel prays to God. The earth hears his prayers, and the earth sends his prayers to God. Then God will take the answer. When God decides to answer Jezreel, God will take the answer and send it to the earth. God will tell the answer to the earth. God will speak out the answer to Jezreel's prayer to the earth. And it is the earth then that will give that answer to man. That is what happens. So, this means that when God is about to answer someone's prayer, He will speak the answer to the earth, and the earth will then give that answer to the person. This means that God speaks blessings to the earth, and the earth gives blessings to people. But in this scripture, of Jeremiah 22, verses 29 and 30 that we read, we see that God is speaking words of curse to the earth. In fact, God is putting curse in the earth for the earth to carry it to the accursed man, Coniah by name in this case. So God doesn't speak directly to Coniah. God doesn't tell Coniah, hey, you Coniah, look, hear my word. You will be childless. Or I write you down in my book as childless. You shall not prosper in your days, and your descendants shall not prosper either. No, God didn't say that. God didn't talk directly to Coniah. Instead, God talked to the part of the earth in which Coniah lived. God told that part of the earth to write down Coniah as childless, and to write down Coniah as a man who shall never prosper, and whose descendants shall not prosper either. You know, the earth is made of lands. The earth, the whole earth, is made of different lands. Thus, in a certain way, God has put curse in the land where Coniah lived. That is the land of Judah. But in this case, he put that curse only for Coniah and his descendants. So God puts curse in that land where Coniah was living for the curse to affect Coniah, for the earth, for the curse of the land to impact on Coniah. So when there is curse in the land where you live, you are most likely, yes, you are most likely to be affected by that curse. Remember when Elijah, for example, prayed that there would be no rain in Israel. You remember that? He prayed that there would be no rain, and there was no rain for 3.5 years in Israel. In fact, Elijah cursed the land of Israel. Well, all those who were living in Israel in those days were affected by the drought, which is, of course, as we know, a curse. Thus, everybody who lives in a land that carries curse will be subjected to that curse. He will be affected by that curse. Of course, the curse of a given land may only concern one single person, as was the case with Coniah. But it can most generally concern the whole set of people, the whole set of the people who live in that accursed land, as was the case in Israel during the drought in the days of Elijah. So when you live in an accursed land, you will be affected by the curse of that land. Let's now read Genesis chapter 3. Genesis chapter 3, verses 17 to 19. Genesis chapter 3, verses 17 to 19. Then to Adam God said, because you have heeded the voice of your wife, and have eaten from the tree of which I commanded you, saying, you shall not eat of it, cursed is the ground for your sake. In toil you shall eat of it all the days of your life. Both thorns and thistles it shall bring forth for you, and you shall eat the herb of the field. In the sweat of your face you shall eat bread, till you return to the ground, for out of it you were taken, for dust you are, and to dust you shall return. Let's also read Genesis chapter 1, so we'll understand better. Genesis chapter 1, verses 11 and 12. Genesis chapter 1, verses 11 and 12. We read, Then God said, Let the earth bring forth grass, the herb that yields seed, and the fruit tree that yields fruit according to its kind, whose seed is in itself on the earth. And it was so. And the earth brought forth grass, the herb that yields seed according to its kind, and the tree that yields fruit, whose seed is in itself according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. You see, the very first time that the earth carried curse is after Adam and Eve sinned in the Garden of Eden. That is the very first time that we see that the earth carried curse, that God cursed the earth. The sin of Adam and Eve brought curse to the earth. The whole earth, not part of the earth, but the whole earth. And this curse has affected all mankind. It is still affecting all mankind today. It was a curse pronounced by God himself. So it is affecting the whole mankind, the whole earth. And at creation, the earth was not supposed to bear any curse. The earth was supposed to only bear blessing, because God has blessed the earth, as we read in Genesis chapter 1. God has blessed the earth, and the earth was supposed to only carry blessing. So we were not supposed to toil for the land to give us food or to give us any other benefit. The earth wasn't supposed to bring forth thorns and thistles. Yet, because of man's sin in the Garden of Eden, God has cursed the earth. So man's sin brought curse to the earth. And as we already said, the earth is a set of different lands. And in every land where you are, there is that curse still in effect. So this initial curse was the curse of the whole earth. This is why it affects the whole mankind in all the world, no matter the land in which you are living. That curse is affecting you. But there are also curses that affect only part of the earth, not the whole earth. There are lands in which a certain curse has been declared. And as long as that curse is not broken, it is still and always active. You know, as long as the curse of a land is not reversed, as long as it is not revoked, it is still and always in effect, and it will always be affecting all the people who live in that land. And let me tell you one thing that you already know. Many of the lands in which we have been living are accursed lands. Many of the lands in which we have been living carry curses. These curses may have come into these lands because someone has declared them. Remember, in times past, people were very fast at cursing. For any little thing, they would curse somebody. For any little thing, they will curse the whole family. For any little thing, they will curse the whole village. For any little thing, they will curse the whole land. Our ancestors were very fast at cursing. This is why most of the lands in which we have been living, in which we are currently living, bear curses. Curses that were pronounced by our ancestors. And as long as we don't break those curses are still in effect, and they will still affect us. They will continue affecting us. Besides the curses brought into the land by the declaration of somebody, curses may also come into given lands because of the sins in those lands. Because of the sins that have been committed in those lands. And you all know that most of our ancestors were idol worshippers. You know, Elijah cursed the land of Israel because Israel had become idol worshippers. Or at least the majority of the Israelites living in the land of Israel in those times had become idol worshippers. They were worshipping Baal. But idol worshipping can also bring curse automatically in the land. And most of our ancestors were idol worshippers. And even nowadays, in our villages, in most of our villages, people are still worshipping idols. And those people, most of them are rulers of those villages, are rulers of those lands. And since they have a parcel of authority, they have authority over those lands, whatever they speak on those lands come into effect. So when they worship idols in those lands, they are attracting curse in those lands. So many of the lands in which we have been living, in which we are still living now, bear curses. And as long as you as a child of God, you as a servant of the Most High, you as the prophet of the true and living God, don't break that curse. Know that that curse is still into effect. And that curse will continue affecting you. That curse will continue affecting all the people living in those lands. You know, there are, for example, areas where no child can ever prosper in school. There are places where no child can have any school certificate. There are areas where nobody can get married. There are areas where nobody can ever prosper in a way or another. Because there is a curse in that area. There is a curse in that land. There is a curse that prevents people from prospering. Either because of the numerous sins committed in that land, or because of the declaration of one person or of a group of people. They have decided that no one in that area should prosper, that no one in that area should get married, that no one in that area should have any university degree or any school certificate, or even a diploma. And the area is like that. Dear brethren, we'll stop here for today and continue with the same teaching on this coming Wednesday, the 12th of January 2022. breaking the curse of the land. God bless you abundantly beyond all your expectations, and have a blessed week in a blessed land.